For Russia, Trump has a lot to offer, even without a Ukraine ceasefire deal. President Trump says he's focused on stopping the death march in Ukraine as soon as possible, but for President Vladimir Putin of Russia, ceasefire talks with Trump are a means to much broader ends. Russia and American officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia on Monday to deepen their negotiations about technical details of a partial ceasefire to halt attacks on energy infrastructure, facilities, and on ships in the Black Sea. While Ukraine says it's ready for a full truce, Putin has made it clear that he will seek a wide range of concessions. First, the upshot: the Kremlin appears determined to squeeze as many benefits as possible from Trump's desires for a Ukraine peace deal, even as it slow walks the negotiations. Viewed from Moscow, better ties with Washington are an economic and geopolitical boon, one that may be achieved even as Russian missiles continue pounding Ukraine. Interviews last week with senior Russian foreign policy figures at a security conference in New Delhi, India, suggested that the Kremlin saw negotiations over Ukraine and over US-Russia ties as running on two separate tracks. Putin continues to seek a far-reaching victory in Ukraine, but is humoring Trump's ceasefire push to seize the benefits of a thaw with Washington. The deputy chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the lower house of parliament in Russia, Vyacheslav Nikonov, said that Trump and Putin were developing a bilateral agenda that was not connected to Ukraine. Ukraine is running its course, Nikonov said, with an interview on the sidelines of the New Delhi conference, calling the Russian dialogue, "The offensive is ongoing, but I think that for Putin, relations with America are more important than the question of Ukraine specifically," he said. And engaged with Trump, Moscow's thinking seems to go could unlock economic benefits as basic as spare parts for Russian Boeing jets and geopolitical gains as broad as a reduction in NATO's presence in Europe. What's less clear is whether Trump will use those hopes as leverage to get a better deal for Ukraine, and whether he will at some point lose patience with Putin. Trump likes quick deals, said Alexander Dinkin, international affairs specialist who advises the Russian Foreign Ministry. If he sees that there are big difficulties, he may be disappointed and cast his problem aside. And as a result, Putin seems to be pulling out all the stops to hold Trump's interest. A meeting in Moscow with the White House envoy Steve Witkoff this month, Putin handed over a beautiful portrait of President Trump commissioned from a Russian artist. Witkoff said in an interview released on Sunday, "It was such a gracious moment," Witkoff told the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. On Ukraine, Putin has shown no sign of budging from his far-reaching goals, a guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO, a rollback of the Western alliance in Central and Eastern Europe, limits on Ukraine's military, and some level of influence over Ukraine's domestic policies. And he also said that Russia could accept a United Nations peacekeeping force in Ukraine as long as it did not include troops from NATO countries. For Russia, the long-term perspective is more valuable than a tactical ceasefire. And the advisory board of the Russian Foreign Ministry said we can emerge with a model that will allow Russia and the United States and Russia and NATO to coexist without interfering in each other's spheres of interest, he said. And to achieve such a deal, Russia is appealing to Trump's business-minded focus. Wojtolowski contended that broad agreements over Ukraine was a prerequisite for U.S.-Russian cooperation, and that Trump, as a businessman, understood that Russian assets were currently undervalued. Now, Anastasia Likacheva, Dean of International Affairs at Higher School of Economy in Moscow, said it was unlikely that Trump would deliver quick and far-reaching sanctions relief, but said the thaw in relations with the United States could lead to reduced enforcement of sanctions and make it easier for Russian companies to operate globally by sending a signal that Russia was no longer a problematic partner. Such a detox, she said, could be useful and will expand our menu of possibilities, she said. This is from New York Times on DNYUZ. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.